Like it, the sound of mighty horsepower here at one of the most famous short tracks on the East Coast, the Seekonk Speedway. The Vendetti family have hosted some of the most exciting and competitive events. Great look at Ronnie Silk, but that's just one of the many stories as the drivers are strapped in. Doug Kobe, car number 44. In practice here today, nobody was a shoe-in runaway. Let's go back and take a look there for a second. Car number 1, Patrick Emmerling, started the season strong, consistent podium runs, but then at Riverhead, Joe, everything changed.
Riverhead, it changed it all. He had some bad luck for Patrick Emmerling, had to come down pit road late, and Ron Silk continued to build the momentum that he has this year, scoring his third victory of the season. This racetrack, very, very, very tricky. You've got to be up on the wheel, but really you've got to have that old egg under that right foot gas pedal. Very easy to overdrive this racetrack.
Certainly is, and you have to save the right rear tire. There's no question about it. You have to have drive off the turn, but you can't burn up that right rear. We're going to see who's been able to save those tires and end up the man in victory lane. Again, as we said before, only two individuals. Matt Swanson already has a victory this season, not on the Whelen Modified Tour. That took place in the Modified Race Series. To the inside of the front row, that, of course, is Austin Beers. Now, remember, Austin's dad won this race driving for the Bowler family. That was the story in the competition way back then, but let's see what will happen today. They pull away from the starting grid.
Let's take a quick look at the starting lineup for tonight's J&R Precast 150 for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. By virtue of the redraw, Austin Beers and Matt Swanson on the front row. Kyle Bonsignor qualified third, redrew third. He'll start 3. And Jake Johnson, winner earlier this season, he is in the 4th position.
Let's go back to row number 3. Justin Bonsignor is there, along with Jacob Lutz in his first Whelen Modified Tour start this season. Patrick Emmerling makes up the 4th row with Matt Hirschman with car number 60, the defending race winner.
Row 5, Steven Kopsick will start the 21. First start of the season for him. Craig Lutz, solid season so far, starts inside the top 10. How about Ron Silk? He'll start 11th tonight. Timmy Salamito starts 12th.
Then we go back to the 7th row. It'll be Tommy Catalano. Doug Kobe starting back in the 14th starting position, the only two-time winner in this event. Sam Bramo returns to the competition, making up the 8th row with Anthony Cecily.
17th tonight, Kyle Ebersol alongside Tyler Catalano. Then you go back to his brother Trevor Catalano and Tom Rogers in the top 20.
Then we go to Ken Heggie. Tim Conley will pick up at the rear of the field, and Melissa Fifield. They rumble, they make the ground shake. These are the men and women of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour.
Let's take a look at the race analysis for tonight's event, the J&R Precast 150. 150 laps, 82 degrees. It was sunny. Now the sun has gone down, and we're ready to race under the lights.
We sure are. This is a third-mile race facility. Tire allotment, no change tires. That could be a key ingredient in all of this. This event brought to you by J.R. Precast. And as you look up behind turn number 2, you can see the display there. Story of this race, the keys of the race: be smooth, control the pace, and most important, develop a rhythm and maintain that rhythm throughout each and every lap.
Take a look at some of the track facts here at Seekonk Speedway. Seekonk, Massachusetts, just a little bit east of Providence, Rhode Island. This track used to be dirt, but it's been asphalt since 1980. It opened up in 1946. Third mile racetrack. It's basically a circle once we get under the green flag. And Matt Hirschman led wire to wire 150 laps 1 year ago to score his first victory under the Whelen Modified Tour banner here at Seekonk Speedway.
Certainly has. And of course, as we said before, a great group of race fans are assembled. Old Blue, the pride of the legendary Carl Bugsy Stevens, a great tribute earlier. We'll be talking about that later in the event. Looks like 2 circuits before we get them fired back up here. We're looking at the men in the entire field as they have pulled away from the starting grid. Austin Beers said it best, Joe. He said starting up front is a huge advantage. That advantage was not the advantage that Matt Hirschman had at the start of this event. 1 year ago, he was a guy starting up in that front row.
Yeah, Matt Hirschman earlier today, fastest in practice, qualified in the Mayhew Tools pole, but on these short track season, NASCAR has implemented the redraw. You might have seen that earlier in our pre-race coverage. He was the first to draw. He spun 8 drivers to redraw at the top of the grid, and he picked pill number 8, so he has to start in the 8th position. That's the second time this season that has happened to Matt Hirschman.
It is, and you could see as we looked at that situation what happened. He was not a happy guy. He spun the chip off, and of course, he is ready. And ready is car number 60. Craig Lutz behind him, the number 46 car.
1 to go at the line. We'll get ready to turn them loose here. A couple of very talented drivers on the front of this field with Austin Pierce, who happens to be the neighbor of Matt Hirschman down at Mud Lane in Northampton, Pennsylvania. They've got this racetrack figured out for sure, and he's got a lot of momentum, as we talked about earlier. 2 runner-up finishes, and he looks to be able to get 1 spot better and be the victor tonight here at Seekonk Speedway. Green flag just moments away as they roll through turn 4. Green flag displayed, and we are underway at Seekonk.
Bottom of turn number 1, Austin Beers, but digging in hard in the outside lane is car number 89. Beers in the Sly Zabin prepared car will lead lap number 1.
Beers out in front, outside lane. Keep an eye on Jake Johnson in that 3 car. Last year it took 7 laps in, and he had the left rear tire go down. It's a tough outing for him already. Sparks flying out from that car as it bottoms out. We talked about Bugsy Stevens, a car that was paced recently, passing modified legend Jake Johnson, feeling the pressure of that here.
About everybody that loved the Bowler family and has loved Bugsy Stevens is cheering for the number 3 car. It sets in the 3rd position. Kyle Bonsignor, pink and silver machine. Car number 22 setting back in the 4th spot. Top 4 cars, and then it is Justin Bonsignor running in the tire tracks of car number 22.
Oh, Justin Bonsignor will have an opportunity next race, which is June 22nd, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, to have a double day. He'll have a race in the Wheel Modified Tour. He'll drive the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series as he makes his National Series debut, riding 5th right now behind his cousin Kyle Bonsignor.
And while that is all happening, things are starting to get settled in. Directly behind him is the number 14 machine. That's Jacob Lutz, another part of the racing family, that black and gold numeraled race car. He continues to run right tight to the back end of Justin Bonsignor, car number 51.
Jake making his debut today in the Wheel of Modified Tour has been running for the Joe Stearns Billy Putnam number 14 modified up in Western New York from just outside Buffalo, New York. No relation to Craig Lutz, but he's here today so that way he can be certified to be able to race at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, or at least practice this car that'll be driven by Bobby Santos, who's not going to be able to practice or qualify. Santos will race the car, but Jake right here today, Jake Lutz in that 14, getting the opportunity to prove he's got the skill in these modified tour cars to be able to go run at New Hampshire.
So far today in practice and in qualifying, he did a masterful job with the car. Very competitive racing operation. We know that Santos has won before in New Hampshire, so he is definitely going to be a big factor as that car gets dialed in.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about the athletes that are in the field. We mentioned football player Tim Conley, one of the oldest drivers in the field. Jake Lutz is a driver that was a Division II championship-winning athlete for Lemoyne College, where he played lacrosse. Right now he's running 6. He's putting all that talent to work behind the wheel of that 14 car.
He certainly is, and he continues to run right with the front pack of cars. Margin between 1st and 2nd is starting to open up. It is .724. Meanwhile, all of a sudden, it is Jake Johnson with the number 3 car, setting in that 3rd position still. Takes a peek at the inside of Swanson. Swanson's car looks to be loosening up a bit, Joe, in that 2nd position.
Matt Swanson has won very big races here, big paydays here at Seekonk Speedway. Not a full-time competitor anymore on the Wheel and Modified Tour, but he's got this family number 89 running very well. He was confident coming out of practice, looks strong early, but he does get a challenge from Jake Johnson, who looks to the inside of turn 2. Johnson trying to pick up a spot, move into the runner-up spot, but for now, Swanson able to hold on.
One slip up the racetrack or one dive to the bottom could change everything in that front pack of cars. While Austin Beers is out front, here comes Jake Johnson, the Linz Propane Plus machine, trying everything to work his magic to get around Swanson. Also, at the bottom of the top 6, the 14 car still running there, and that, of course, is Jacob Lutz.
This racetrack, when we came here a year ago, you can see the darker corners, turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. They had recently paved the corners, so it's a little bit of a different feel. When the drivers came back out of practice earlier today, it was hot, sunny, and slick at this racetrack. They said the racetrack felt completely different with that rubber wearing into that new pavement and it aging over the winters here in New England. This racetrack is not the same track that these teams saw a year ago.
It certainly is not, and Matt Hirschman was one to comment on that earlier today in the paddock area. He stated simply, it's a different racetrack. A year ago, I led every lap. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to be that easy. Right now, young Austin Beers is trying to prove that. Here comes Jake Johnson again.
Johnson looking inside again. Behind them, Justin Bonsignor trying to put a move on Kyle Bonsignor, but we keep an eye on that battle for second. That middle groove carries just enough momentum to allow Matt Swanson to hold on to the spot, but Jake Johnson continues to try to work to the bottom. But Ben, you alluded to it when we were in the starting grid that you gotta hang on to that right rear tire. Look at Swanson's car. His car dancing out from behind him, but Jake Johnson square and straight as he comes off the corner.
Certainly is. Jake Johnson now can get the car to the inside. Swanson's car, watch it. It kind of does a little bit of stutter step as the back end of the car starts to come away and around just a bit. But now it is Johnson that pulls it back into line. Gonna test the waters again. This could be the move. Jake Johnson, Matt Swanson, two of the best in modified racing, talent on the rise, and here comes Jake Johnson up to position number 2. Swanson tucks it back in the line, nose to tail, they come back off 4.
Jake Johnson grew up racing at this racetrack. He was a Legends winner and a champion here, won in late model competition at this racetrack. He's got a lot of history here at Seekonk Speedway. He now moves into the second spot. He's already been able to gap Matt Swanson, but he is 1.1 seconds behind the race leader Austin Beers, who has got that 64 car on cruise control through the first 30 laps.
Let's take a look further back in the field right now. Also, you're seeing Matt Hirschman back in the 7th position. Patrick Emmerling in the 8th spot. Stephen Kopsick, the 21, is 9th. And Ron Silk has broken into the top 10.
How about Matt Hirschman? Remember where he started. Qualified on the Mayhew Tool pole, slipped back to 8th because of the redraw. He's only 7th right now. When you look back through the history books of the race winners here at this track, the deepest the race winner has started has been 6th. That was done twice. Eric Beers did it, and Timmy Salamito did it. Timmy in the field tonight in the 58 car, but it's hard to work your way through traffic, and we saw how difficult it was for Jake Johnson to be able to pass Matt Swanson for the second spot. Matt Hirschman, different track or not, he is one of the most prepared drivers of all of modified racing, and I think one of the reasons why he's so good is because of that thick notebook that he has.
I think you're right about that, and that notebook seems to be paying off wherever he goes. Meanwhile, the 14 car of Jacob Lutz has moved into the top 5, bumping Kyle Bonsignor, the 20 back 1. But Justin Bonsignor has moved into the 3rd position, forcing Matt Swanson, the white number 89 car, back into the 4th spot. Lutz is moving forward in position number 5. That's Jacob Lutz. Little chrome horn action there as they head down to the bottom of the turn. And here comes car number 60, Matt Hirschman. He's running on rails. Patrick Emmerling trying to get around the number 22 machine of Kyle Bonsignor for the second position.
Matt Hirschman doing what Matt Hirschman does. Very calculated as the race rolls on, allowing some of these drivers that started in top 5 to come back. Pat Emmerling working underneath Kyle Bonsignore, who started this race third, is now trying to hold on to the 7th spot. That car starting to backpedal here 40 laps in.
Certainly is. And we look at that battle. Steven Kopsick with the number 21 car, making his wheel and modified debut with 2024, is into the 9th position. Ron Silk back in 10th. Running the tire tracks, Steven Kopsick. Kopsick won a $10,000 win modified event for the Monaco Modified Tri-Track Series 1 week ago.
He'll drive this 21 car. Now he's usually the crew chief for the 19 car of Anthony Cecily, his teammate now tonight in the Wannick Motorsports entry, but Steven having an opportunity to race here in the Wheel and Modified Tour. His dad, Anthony Bello, who made a start earlier this year at New Smyrna, working on this modified here tonight to get it ready to go racing.
Good battle right there as Ronnie Silk continues to test the waters just a bit. He can reel in on the back bumper of Kopsick, takes a peek to the outside, short-lived, and pulls it back into formation.
Not much forward progress tonight for Ron Silk. You can see him sawing on the wheel when they came across the start-finish line. For drivers at this racetrack, you want to hold basically 10 and 2 as you're going around the racetrack and just turn the car with the throttle. You don't want a lot of steering wheel movement here because it's basically turning the entire time.
And you definitely don't want to wring those tires. So you have to keep things smooth, consistent. Here comes Silk. Nice move to the inside. Kopsick opens the door. Ronnie Silk right there, but can't do it. He'll pull it back into formation. Steven Kopsick with the yellow stripe on the bumper. You wouldn't think he was a rookie with the moves he's making there. And Ronnie Silk, one of the best, the dominant team and the dominant car so far this season.
Yeah, and Kopsick may have the rookie stripe on because he doesn't have very many starts in the Wheel and Modified Tour, but he is no rookie to modified racing and tour-type modified racing.
All of a sudden, his car developed a little bit of a side move, and that gave the number 16 car of Ronnie Silk the opportunity to move into the 9th spot. Patrick Emmerling is just in front of him. Now Emmerling with the number 1 car, we said at the start of the program, the beginning of the year had a couple of consistent podium runs. Things changed for that race team, but now, today, he's looking to, well, be able to find his way back to the front.
The 1 car of Emmerling has had the speed all year long, but he's got caught up in a couple of things. He had a pit road violation at the Richmond Raceway back in March. That put him back in the pack. They got caught up in a wreck. Last time out at the Riverhead Raceway, one of the other cars that was involved in an accident hit the rear bumper of their machine. It attached a piece of metal to the Nerf bar. They had to come down pit road and get that metal off the car so it didn't pierce a tire from somebody else, but it cost them an opportunity to have a good run. So they've had speed, but they haven't always had the luck.
You are so correct about that. And look at Silk now. He's continuing to try to set up Patrick Emmerling. Here comes Ron Silk. Bold move to the inside. Bottom of the racetrack, Ron Silk has moved into the 8th spot. His next target is going to be Kyle Bonsignore.
Ron Silk is very deep in the running order, now in the 9th position, but his lap times, even while passing race cars side by side on the racetrack, are even a little bit better the last couple of times than the race leader, Austin Beers. So he's still deep in the pack. He's 2.3 seconds behind the race leader, but every lap or so, he's a tenth better, a couple hundredths better. He is reeling in the race leader deep in the pack.
And that patience and that ability to do just that is starting to pay off. Melissa Fifield, bottom of the racetrack, as the lead pack of cars rumble on by. Just in front of the Bonsignore machine, there is our leader out in front. Sly Zabin and Ronnie Uhouse are the 2 men performing the magic behind the scene, and that magic has been working as Austin Beers continues to be the driving force. Meanwhile, we've got some heavy traffic as car number 3, Jake Johnson, comes up on one of the Catalano cars.
1.6 seconds is the advantage right now, and Austin Beers looking in the rearview mirror. Every time Jake Johnson runs a little bit slower, Austin Beers runs a little bit slower, just trying to maintain that gap and not use up his equipment. Austin Beers has run really well on the large racetracks. You look at his first victory coming at Richmond Raceway, got the win up at Lancaster last year in the summer months. But these racetracks here is really what he grew up on, running at tracks like Mahoning Valley and others. Have this exact same shape, gives him a lot of confidence here at this track, and it's not really all that surprising to see him to go out there and try to pace the field here in the early going.
You know, he quickly goes around the Ebersol machine, car number 5 that is running back in the 17th position. When we talked to Austin Beers in the pits earlier, he said this racetrack reminds me of my home track, Mahoning Valley. There is one thing. After several laps in the competition, your neck muscles start to hurt. All of a sudden, your head that was holding straight is now leaning. And that leaning and that pressure creates a whole different illusion.
Well, it's a good thing that they've got those headrests that come right around the right side of the driver, because this is a racetrack that does exactly that. He did speak about that earlier today in the day. Steven Kopsick on the bottom in the number 20 car. Patrick Emmerling up top of the outside lane. This is 9th and 10th in turn 3.
Sure is. And again, heavy traffic just in front of them. Steven Kopsick has matured, running in the 9th position. That 21 car goes to the inside of the Tom Rogers green number 00. Back in 2016, it was Timmy Solomito that was the big winner here at the Cement Palace. And right now, we've got a great battle shaping up through heavy traffic now. Ronnie Silk is now up to 7. We said, traffic has become the key situation here.
Ron Silk, one of the only drivers to be charging through the field. Even Matt Hirschman has paused his charge. He's only moved up to the 6th position. Ron Silk up to 7th, but about a second behind the 6th place car, Hirschman. That was the first mistake we've seen out of Silk. A little wiggle that time coming across the start finish line, but his car is very, very good at this point in the race.
It certainly is good. Phil Moran said, you know, when you run this racetrack, the setup has to change because, as you pointed out earlier, Joe, there is some new pavement on the chips at the bottom of the racetrack. That's starting to work. Here comes Silk, working his magic. Lap automobile. Car number 84, that is Tyler Catalano, as Silk makes the move by. Once he gets by, he's trying to close up that gap very, very